Hi everyone, and welcome back to AMVlog. This is Vivifx AMV, and this is my first tutorial with AMVlog. I figured there were a lot of boys here trying to teach you things, so I figured we needed a little bit of girl power to step in and show them how it's really done. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone on this channel knows exactly what they're doing. So without any further ado, let's jump right in, because this tutorial is a little bit of a doozy, and it's on achieving maximum flow in your AMVs. So a lot of times when you ask, or when I've asked editors how they learn or achieve flow, they reply with something like practice, or, you know, it takes a long time, or you pick it up as you go. And you're right, it does take a lot of practice, but half the time this answer is really lame because it doesn't give you any insight about what you could personally be doing to better yourself as an editor. So I took it upon myself to study what makes flow in AMVs and how I personally approach AMV projects. And this tutorial is basically what I came up with. A lot of this is my internalized thought process, but I bet after like 2 AMVs of you actively thinking about it, it's going to become like second nature for you too. Like I said, this is my method for doing this. Feel free to adapt your own personal method and mix it with mine, or do whatever you want. But before we get into it, I'm going to warn you that this tutorial involves a lot of thinking, so put on your +2 cap of intelligence, and I'm going to try and make this as entertaining and painless as possible. So, what precisely is flow? That term is thrown around a lot in the editing community, and I'll be honest, for a long time I didn't really have a clue about what it exactly meant. Either my videos had it, or they didn't, much like swag. The definition for flow is achieved when the footage is in sync with the music, follows the feeling of the song, and works well with the clips before and after it. But how do you get flow? That's what the main focus of this tutorial is going to be. Now, this method that I'm about to outline works really well for any type of AMV, but is especially good for multi-source projects, as it helps you achieve that little extra bit of flow, which is crucial when working with multiple sources that won't blend as well as one unanimous-looking anime. Besides, if you can create flow with multiple animes, you can basically do anything. Now, the thing that originally has the most flow in your AMV is your song. I don't imagine you're going to be laying down a whole scene from one of your animes for the entirety of the AMV. You're going to be chopping it up and thus making it disjointed and destroying its natural flow. In order to get that back, paying attention to the song is key. So the first thing you should be doing when you're editing is examining the song. So I'm going to open this up and we're going to talk about it. One of the most common errors I see with new editors, or even some seasoned editors, is that they're just throwing clips into the timeline without any rhyme or reason. If you're a really skilled editor, you can make this work, but if you're new, it's just going to make things really difficult for you. Basically, what we are doing here is building a foundation to edit from. It is much harder to make something look good when you have a weak foundation. Alright, so you can see I've marked the song here in Vegas, and I'm going to try and explain what my markings mean. Generally, all songs can be broken into phases. What defines a phase? A phase is a section of the song that generally sounds the same. I know that's kind of a hokey definition, but an example of a phrase would be the chorus, the first verse, the second verse, the bridge, etc., etc. So I've broken up this song, Pop Culture by Madeon, into phrases. I marked the song too, but this is something that you can easily do in your head. So an example of a phrase would be, like, for example, here's the second phase of the song. And that would stretch all the way to here, where the song changes, and then enters the next phase. For example, here is another phase that stretches to here, where it transitions into the next phase. Similarly, these phases can be broken down into sequences. The same thing applies here, basically. It's parts of the phrase that sound similar. So an example of that, going back to this section, would be, here is the first sequence of the fourth phrase, the second sequence of the fourth phrase, and the third sequence of the fourth phrase. A sequence in this section would probably end here when it starts the next verse. Now, even Further, these sequences can be broken down into instances, which would be something like this part, or this, which is something where you would only have 2 or 3 clips. But we're not really going to focus on instances, we're really just talking about phases and sequences. Okay, so what is the point of breaking your song down like this? Let's go back and talk about phases. Generally, each of these phases of your song should have a theme. For example, in this AMV, I used the second phase as a dance section, which I wrote down here, more or less. And the third phase was everyone running, mobility, people going places. The fourth phrase was all like romantic-y stuff. And the fifth phrase, we were back to dancing. Now, why did we go back to dancing in the fifth phrase? This is a pro tip, so take notes. If you have a chorus or something that's similar to a previous phase, you should do something that is similar in your theme-wise. For example, if you were doing a romance AMV, you might use this first chorus as something to talk about, like, how, like, showing, like, hilarious, flirtatious moments between the couple, and then you might use the second chorus to show more tender moments, but there's still moments between the couple. So you see they're similar, but they're different enough that your viewer doesn't get bored. I like to make comparisons to this method that I'm outlining right now to that of Street Fighter. A big part of the game of Street Fighter is building combos. Editing is no different. You're trying to build combos, except with similarities. The more things you can get in common with the clips, the better things are going to go for you. Maybe all the clips in one section are going to be warm colored. If you put a random blue clip in there, it's going to be disorienting and throw everyone off. Perhaps everyone is going to be moving the same way, or all the clips are going to have the same mood or emotion. Who knows? You can find some really fun and creative ways to create similarities. So now I'm going to open up like a middle version, which is the middle of this project. Alright, so now we've laid down clips. We haven't even started editing, and you've already gotten some flow going on. Give yourself a pat on the back. Maybe take a break, play some video games, maybe some League of Legends, who knows? Anyway, we're going to focus on sequences now. This is where the nitty-gritty stuff like pans, transition, and what most people think of editing comes in. Here I'm just going to give you some helpful tips to just help you do what you're doing. Keep that building combos in mind. That should be your general mindset. You want clips to be similar, but now instead of focusing on that whole phrase, which we've already lined out, you're going to be focusing on just the sequence. So, for example, in this first sequence, I have Keon running. He's running, and we pan. I add pans usually when I lay down clips just because I want to, but so he's running, and then we have him running towards Haruhi, and here I added a pan because Keon is moving this way, so Haruhi should also be moving that way. That's your first tip. If you have clips, if everyone is moving in one direction in a clip, or you're continually panning left to right in a sequence, you should keep doing that. The only time you should change the directionality of your pans is when there's a change-up moment in the song, which is usually at the end of a sequence. So let's keep going and look. So Haruhi's moving this way. This is the beginning of the change-up in the sequence. I pan in. Now, the similarity between these two clips, which makes them a viable option, is Haruhi's hair is billowing here, and her hair is billowing here. And now we're panning upwards in a diagonal motion, and I immediately go into Black Rock Shooter, and I pan diagonally in that one too. And now she's moving forward. That would be an example of a change-up. Now, if you notice here, this clip of Cheryl is kind of a weird color. I mean, we've been doing blues, and now we have this weird purple going on, and then I'm going into a green. Now I'm going to open the final project of the AMV, and we're going to see how I dealt with that. Now you can see in the final version of the project, I also added some static, but I changed the coloring. I used a little color correction to make Cheryl more blue and green, so she would match better with the clips that came for and after her. Here's some other fun tips. Clips that look similar to each other, right next to each other, are a really great way to create flow. Here we see Suzaku twirling Euphemia, and we pan into his eye, and then we go back out, and we see Charlotte being twirled by the dude from Princess Lover. And it's pretty much the exact same motion. They look really similar, and they look really great right next to each other, and they create flow. Another example of that would be here, which is probably my favorite transition in the whole of the AMV, where the chick from Idol is about to blow a kiss. We pan in, and suddenly she is stalking. Oh my god, I almost called her Panty. Suddenly she is stalking from Panty and Stocking. Having two clips with motions that complement each other is a really great way of creating flow. When I heard this part in the song, it made me think of a crisscross, so I tried to use two motions that would create a crisscross. You can see here that the chick from Dance in the Vampire Bun is moving from left to right, and Cheryl is doing basically the same motion, just right for left. So that created a really nice sense of flow because it makes the brain just kind of follow what's going on. The best sort of combos are created with the song in mind too. Here, not only does the clip have internal sync, but it also has lyric sync as well as mixing well with the previous clip. That's what I would call a KO. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to watch the final product of this video, and I'd like you to pay attention to 3 things. First, I'd like you to be able to identify the phases and the sequences and the transitions between those parts. 2, pay attention to what I was talking about in the second part of the tutorial with different clips and how they interact next to each other. And 3, I'm not perfect, and there are a couple parts where I mess up, and see if you can identify those so I can help you not make those mistakes in the future. I'm going to try and talk over what's going on and show you, but I'm not sure if I can talk fast enough to cover, like, it's a pretty fast-paced song and video. So I'm going to include a text document with this tutorial that outlines why I basically did certain things at certain times. So this is the first phase, first sequence, second sequence, kind of soothing clips. First sequence had like a cherry blossom theme, second one had a water theme. This is the second phase, dance oriented. I changed the color of the panty clip to make it more blue. Trying to keep high saturated colors. Transition into the third phase. Everyone's moving. More subdued colors, less saturated. Changing the color of the Cheryl clip, eye opening, and another eye will open soon on a similar beat, right there. Transition into the fourth phase, the shoujo phase. This is probably my least favorite phase in the AMV. It's got a little mucky, just doing clips of people together. This would be a mess up because I tried to keep 2 people together, but those were 2 single independent clips. Similar clip transition, motion, similar clip transition. This is the 5th phase, more dancing. Here's what I was talking about with the complementing motion. Now we're getting ready to transition into the 6th phase. Here, zooming through space. And now notice the clips are all drawing us in, except this one, which is going the other way. This would be a mess up. And notice how it created some sort of disharmony. Really subdued, melancholic clips. I used Guilty Crown as a tie, as a similar theme. I brought in Princess Tutu because it's a content match. Both of them are ballet dancing. Made this a little more blue and desaturated. All of this has been color corrected. This is the transition into the final phase. It's kind of a long transition. There we go. The theme of the final phase was Katie's running out of time, so we're gonna throw clips down. I guess everyone's kind of moving in the same direction. She's not moving. You notice that was kind of a weird transition. And now we're winding down with the credits. Incorporating credits into a video is always really nice. I don't know, I like that. And that's the end. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you learned something. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you just want to tell me that you learned a lot, please leave a comment or send me a personal message. This is my first tutorial that I've ever made ever, so if there's anything I can improve on, please let me know. I hope to follow this up with a sequel tutorial to this about applying this method to storytelling AMVs, which is how I primarily use it. Yeah. See you later, guys.